Hello and welcome to this Sonic Academy course where we took a close look at one of the most commonly used effects in music production, reverb. In this video, we're going to look at what reverb is, what types of reverb there are, and what the main settings on a reverb effect do. Reverb or reverberation occurs when sound is reflected off a surface or surfaces before it reaches our ears. We hear the original dry sound first, followed by the reverberations. The reverb sounds are basically a number of echoes merging together as they bounce around the room. This merging is called diffusion. The surfaces in the room can greatly affect how much sound is reflected back and how the sound changes. For example, softer surfaces will absorb a lot of the high frequencies, resulting in a lot less reverb, whereas harder surfaces will reflect more of those higher frequencies, giving us a brighter reverb. Let's have a look at some of the main types of reverb you may come across when producing music. These types of reverb are the easiest to understand as they simply emulate the natural reverberation you would get from being in different sized rooms or halls. Many studios around the world are famed for the types of natural reverbs that are created in their live rooms, but recreating this as part of a home setup can be tricky, so plugins are usually your best option for room and hall reverb effects for most bedroom producers. That said, don't be afraid to set up some mics in rooms in your house to hear what those spaces sound like, as you may have some fairly unique sounding spaces in the environment around you. Chamber reverb is one of the earliest reverb techniques where loudspeakers are used to play a sound in a room or echo chamber, usually made out of concrete or some other dense material with hard reflective surfaces. The reverberated sound is then captured by microphones placed in the same room.
You know that I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Come on, baby, light my fire.
Plate reverb doesn't aim to replicate naturally occurring reverbs from an environment in the same way that room and hall reverbs do. Plate emulates the sound being sent to a metal plate that vibrates backwards and forwards. The reverberation would be traditionally picked up and transformed by a contact mic, creating a dense and warm version of the original sound. Spring reverb can be mainly found in guitar amps. It creates reverb by using a transducer to send an audio signal to one end of a spring, with another transducer at the other end to capture the reverberated waves that travel through the spring. From 1976 onwards, starting with the EMT 250, digital reverb effects became available for use in the studio. Algorithmic reverb uses complex mathematics to simulate the sound of a wide range of spaces. Most standard reverb plugins will be algorithmic. Great examples of these are the Lexicon PCM bundle, the Valhalla Vintage Reverb, and the FabFilter Pro R. Convolution Reverb uses real recordings from actual spaces and allows you to apply the properties of that reverb to your sound. The process involves going to an actual space, making a sound, and capturing the reverb created by that sound. This is known as an impulse response. Popular Convolution Reverb plugins are the Waves IR1, Altiverb by Audio Ease, and Logic's built-in Space Designer. Convolution Reverbs can also take its impulse responses from many other different sources. It's worth noting that some plugins, such as Ableton's Hybrid Reverb, gives you the ability to switch between algorithm and convolution reverbs and can even blend the two together. The dry wet control basically allows you to choose how much of the original and affected sound you're hearing at any time. 0% will only have the original sound, whereas 100% will be only the affected sound. And every point in between. You can simply turn up the control until you hear what you think is the correct amount of reverb being added to your sound. A common way to use reverb plugins is on a return track. This can save processing power and also allow you to apply the same reverb effect to different sounds, creating a sense of uniformity across your mix. If you do this, make sure you turn the dry wet control up to 100% wet. Then use your sends to choose how much of that wet effect you're adding to your sound. This is the time in milliseconds that it takes for the reverberation to die away. The longer the time, the longer the reverberations will be audible. Generally, large spaces will have a longer decay time, but this can be affected by the reflectivity of the surfaces in the space. Early reflections are the first set of delays that the listener will hear after hearing the original sound. Your brain will use them to determine the size of the room the sound is in. Late reflections are the secondary bounces that create the tail of the reverb. This is made up of a more diffused set of reflections. The diffusion control allows us to basically smooth out the tail of the reverb. The lower the diffusion is set, the more the reverb will sound like a flutter of echoes. The higher you set it, the smoother and less distinct each reflection will sound as they blend together. Just be careful when using some plugins, as this control might be named differently. For example, in Ableton's built-in reverb, the control is called density, where they have a separate control called diffuse that controls the level of the late reflections, not the density. Pre-delay is the amount of time between the original sound and the affected sound. This can be a very useful control when mixing, as it can separate the original sound from the reverberated sound to increase clarity.
It's in your mind, it's in your head, so hold it, so hold it. It's in your eyes, can you feel it? Let's hold it, let's hold it.
If the pre-delay is left at its shortest setting, the original and affected sound will play on top of each other, potentially decreasing clarity.
It's in your mind, it's in your head, so hold it, so hold it. It's in your eyes, can you feel it? Let's hold it, let's hold it.
Using the pre-delay means you can offset the timing of the affected sound.
It's in your mind, it's in your head, so hold it, so hold it. It's in your eyes, can you feel it? Let's hold it, let's hold it.
The EQ settings on a reverb effect allow you to shape the sound by boosting or cutting frequencies in the reverb. This setting allows you to choose the size of the virtual room you are creating with the effect. The bigger the size, the longer the delay time between reflections, giving you the impression of a larger space. You will find that a lot of plugins connect this control with the decay control, as in the real world, a larger room would usually mean a longer decay. That said, in some plugins like Ableton's Reverb effect, the two are not automatically linked, so you can play around with the room size and decay time separately to mold some unique sounds. Modulation is used to add perceived movement to the reverb tail to increase density or smoothness. There are various ways of adding modulation to a reverb algorithm, but you'll usually end up with a chorus type effect on your sound. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, get in touch through the Sonic Academy forums or hit us up on Facebook.
With brand new masterclasses uploaded every week from A-list producers like UMEC, JTech, Casey Lights and Matt Zoe, we show you how to take your productions to the next level. Get your 7-day free trial today at sonicacademy.com.